What if the person sitting next to you, the one who smiles at you, the one who calls you friend, what if they are the reason your life feels heavier than it should? What if they are the chaos you're trying to silence, the storm you're trying to survive? We don't like to think about it, but evil rarely shows up wearing a mask. No, it shows up wearing familiarity. It shows up as charm, warmth, understanding. It mimics what we want to see. And by the time we realize the truth, it's already too late. And this isn't just philosophy, it's survival. The ancient Stoics believed in clarity, in seeing reality, not how we wish it were, but how it actually is. Seneca warned us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But I ask you, what if your reality is darker than your imagination can grasp? What if someone near you is manipulating you, draining you, poisoning your mind, while calling it love? What if they know exactly what they're doing? This isn't paranoia. This is awareness. And in a world full of noise, deception, and carefully curated masks, awareness is all we have. In this video, we're going to dissect 7 chilling red flags that reveal when someone close to you is not who they pretend to be. 7 signs that the person you trust could be hiding something malevolent, not in the loud, obvious way we imagine villains to behave, but in silence, in manipulation, in psychological warfare. And we won't be looking at this through social media pop psychology. We're going to do this the Stoic way. Philosophy forged in war, betrayal, and loss. We're going to understand why these behaviors exist, what they mean, and how to defend your mind against them. Look closely at your life. Who drains your energy but gives nothing back? Who rewrites reality to suit their narrative? Who seems perfect, too perfect, but leaves you feeling like you're slowly disappearing? This isn't about negativity. It's about protecting your peace. Because the truth is, not everyone around you wants you to grow. Some people benefit from your confusion. Some thrive when you're off balance. Some manipulate you into doubting your own eyes, your own memory, your own intuition. And the most dangerous thing is, you may not even realize it's happening. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor of Rome, once wrote, "The closer someone is to you, the more important it is to observe their character, not their words, not their promises, but their essence." And in this video, we'll learn how. These 7 red flags aren't just symptoms of toxic people, they're warnings. Ignore them, and you may lose your peace, your confidence, even your sense of self, but learn them. And you build a kind of armor no one can penetrate. And here's what makes this even more unsettling. The people who use these tactics, they don't always do it with conscious malice, but that doesn't make them less dangerous. Because evil isn't always loud. Sometimes evil is soft-spoken. Evil laughs with you. Evil comforts you. Evil makes you believe it loves you. So if you've ever had a moment where something just didn't feel right, where the energy felt off, even when the words sounded perfect, you need to watch this. By the end of this video, you'll be able to spot a manipulator before they destroy your peace. You'll understand how Stoic thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius would read the subtle signs others miss. And you'll learn how to walk away, not with fear, but with power. No more second-guessing, no more emotional traps, no more tolerating behavior that drains your soul under the guise of connection. It ends today. Because clarity is the first step toward freedom. You see, when people think of Stoicism, they often picture stillness, peace, a man sitting alone, unmoved, detached, calm, but that image is incomplete. Stoicism isn't passive. It isn't silence for the sake of silence. It is power, measured power, the kind of power that chooses its response, instead of being ruled by reaction, the kind of strength that doesn't scream but sees everything. Stoicism was never meant to be just a coping mechanism for hard times. It was a sword, a shield, a survival philosophy forged in blood, betrayal, and battle. And what were these men protecting themselves from? Not lions, not war, not famine, but from people. People with hidden agendas, people who lied, people who manipulated. Because evil doesn't walk into your life shouting. It walks in smiling. It pretends to care. It mirrors your values. It plays the long game. And then, quietly, it starts to hollow you out from the inside. You don't become truly stoic until you realize that your peace will always be under attack. And most of the time, it won't be from the world. It'll be from one person, a person you never expected, a person you trusted. That's why this matters. If you ignore the signs, you don't just get manipulated. You start to question your own mind, your own emotions, your own memories. And once that happens, they don't need to control you anymore, because you've already started controlling yourself to please them. That is what this video is about. Not just identifying evil, but reclaiming the clarity Stoicism was built to give you. Clarity is how you protect your peace. Clarity is how you stay grounded. Clarity is how you become untouchable. And if you've made it this far, then you already know. This isn't just content. This is a warning. And it's not for everyone. But if you're someone who wants more than surface-level answers, if you're tired of the chaos, the noise, the fake positivity, then this is where you stay sharp. Hit the subscribe button. Tap the notification bell, not because it helps the algorithm, but because this space is built for people who want clarity in a world full of deception. Because after this video, you won't see people the same way again, and once your eyes open, you don't want to close them again. Now, let's look at the first red flag, and if this one reminds you of someone you know, don't ignore it. Red flag number 1, they constantly shift blame. Let's start with the first red flag. One of the most subtle but most destructive. They never take responsibility. No matter what happens, it's never their fault. Something goes wrong at work, their manager is incompetent, their last relationship failed, their ex was crazy. They didn't forget to call, you were just being too demanding. They didn't lie, you misheard. They didn't hurt you, you're just too sensitive. You'll hear them say things like, "Why are you always making me the bad guy? You know how I get when I'm upset. If you hadn't done X, I wouldn't have done Y." And at first it might sound reasonable. It might even sound like they're trying. But listen carefully, because what they're really doing is rewriting reality to protect their image. They're dodging accountability like it's poison, because to them, it is. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "He who blames others has a long road ahead. He who blames himself begins to grow. He who blames no one has found peace." You cannot grow with someone who refuses to evolve. And you cannot evolve if you're constantly forced to carry the emotional weight of another person's actions. Let me show you what this red flag looks like in real life. A woman named Claire, a client of a Stoic therapist, spent 5 years with a man who never said the words, "I'm sorry." Not once. The first year it was small things, cancelled plans, forgotten birthdays, arguments where he raised his voice and stormed out, but every time it was someone else's fault. Her tone, his stress, bad timing. And Claire, like most people who want peace, gave him the benefit of the doubt. She told herself, "He's just going through a lot. Maybe I am overreacting." But every time she gave him grace, he weaponized it. Every time she forgave him, he grew more certain that she would always bend, and he would never have to. By year 3, she had learned how to apologize for his mistakes, and by year 5, she couldn't even recognize her own reflection. Her voice was quieter, her confidence gone, her boundaries blurred, because every day she was made to feel like the problem. That is the power of blame. It doesn't just distort the truth, it corrodes the people closest to it. Stoicism teaches us this, that personal responsibility is not a burden, it's a form of liberation. When we own our actions, we gain the power to change them. But people who constantly shift blame don't want change. They want control. Control over how the story is told. Control over how you remember the past. And eventually control over how you define yourself. So pay attention, not to their excuses, but to their patterns. Do they take ownership or deflect? Do they acknowledge their flaws or accuse you of causing them? Do they grow or do they twist reality to stay the same? Because the Stoic path, the path to clarity, requires truth, and truth dies in the hands of those who refuse to take responsibility. Red flag number 1 is not about anger, it's about avoidance. And someone who avoids accountability will never be a safe place for your mind, your heart, or your future. Red flag number 2, they use guilt as a weapon. Sometimes it doesn't come as blame. Sometimes it comes as guilt, not loud, not obvious. It comes dressed as concern. It sounds like, I guess I just care more than you do. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? No, it's fine. I'll be okay. I always am. These words don't yell at you. They don't insult you. They whisper their way into your chest and settle like a knot in your stomach. And here's the trick. You don't even realize you're being manipulated. You just start feeling bad. You start doubting yourself. You cancel your plans. You apologize for things you didn't do. You over-explain, overcompensate, overgive. And they sit there, watching you twist yourself into guilt, while they get exactly what they wanted without ever raising their voice. Guilt is a powerful tool. It's silent but devastating because it doesn't need proof. It doesn't need logic. It only needs your conscience. And the people who use guilt as a weapon, they don't attack your actions. They attack your identity. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who once lived as a slave, knew this better than anyone. He said, "Only the weak try to control through guilt. The strong control themselves." And that's the key. People who guilt you don't want you to think. They want you to feel. Feel ashamed. Feel indebted. Feel like the villain in your own life, so they can stay the victim in theirs. Take Daniel, a 27-year-old who spent 2 years in a relationship with someone who made him feel like everything he did was wrong, even when it wasn't. If he worked late, she cried. If he didn't respond to a text in 5 minutes, she'd say, "I guess I'm just not a priority to you anymore." When he tried to set boundaries, she told him she was disappointed, not angry. Disappointed. A small word, but it crushed him, and every time he pulled away, she'd suddenly break down. "You're all I have. I just love you so much it hurts." He thought it was love, but it wasn't. It was control. You see, love allows you to breathe. Manipulation makes you shrink. And guilt isn't love's language. It's fear's favorite weapon. Stoicism teaches us to protect our peace, not just from loud chaos, but from quiet destruction. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop being owned. You stop being pulled by invisible strings every time someone else feels uncomfortable. You begin to ask, is this guilt real, or is it planted? Is this my conscience, or their manipulation? When someone uses guilt to steer your actions, they're not asking for love. They're demanding control, and control, dressed as affection, is still control. So if you feel like you're always in debt to someone's emotions, always responsible for how they feel, no matter what you do, that's not connection. That's a trap. Red flag number 3. They mirror you perfectly. At first, they seem perfect. They laugh at the same jokes. They finish your sentences. They love your favorite book. Somehow they've already read it. They agree with your opinions, even the controversial ones. They don't just like you, they reflect you. But wait, that's the trick. Because they're not being real, they're mirroring you. Mirroring is a psychological strategy used consciously by manipulators and unconsciously by the insecure. It's subtle, disarming. It creates fast intimacy. You feel seen, understood, safe. You think, wow, I've never met anyone like this before. And you're right, because this version of them doesn't exist. You're falling in love with a reflection of yourself. They study your language, copy your tone, adopt your values, praise the exact things you're insecure about, and over time, it works. Because how can you not trust someone who seems to get you so well? But Stoicism warns us about this. Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't reveal character, they expose the lack of it." And Marcus Aurelius understood, "Look closely at who admires you most, for their motives may not be what they seem." You see, true character isn't shown by imitation. It's shown by contrast. A real person will not always agree with you. They'll challenge you, disagree, respectfully. Offer a different lens, not just reflect yours, but someone who mirrors you. They want access, not connection. Access to your trust, your routines, your weaknesses, your life. There's a story of a man named Leo. He met someone online. Within 2 weeks, they had everything in common. Same music, same values, same past traumas. She said all the right things, knew all the right moves. But every time Leo shared something vulnerable, it came back later. Not with comfort, but as leverage. If he expressed a boundary, she'd say, "That's not what you said before. Don't you trust me anymore?" If he didn't reply quickly, she'd text, "I guess we're not as close as I thought." The mask slipped, but only when it was too late. Because by then she didn't need to mirror him anymore. She had what she came for: control. Stoicism teaches us that virtue, real virtue, isn't found in performance. It's revealed in moments of pressure, in honesty, in the discomfort of disagreement, in how people act when they're not being watched. So if someone feels too perfect, stop and ask, is this connection or a costume? Because the people who truly belong in your life, they won't just reflect your light, they'll bring their own. Red flag number 4, they gaslight your reality. What if I told you that your mind could be stolen without you ever realizing it? That someone could convince you to question what you saw, what you heard, what you felt. And the moment you start to doubt your reality, they've already won. Gaslighting is not about lies. Lies are obvious, detectable. Gaslighting is about erosion. The slow, surgical removal of your certainty. It starts small. I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. You're overreacting. One by one, your experiences are labeled as exaggerations. Your reactions are dismissed as irrational. Your truth begins to blur. And here's the danger. You don't fight back. Because gaslighting doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like confusion. And confusion keeps you stuck, wondering if maybe, just maybe, you are the problem. The Stoics warned us about this mental warfare long before the term gaslighting existed. Epictetus wrote, "If someone can make you doubt what you know, they own not just your mind, but your freedom." And that's exactly what gaslighters aim to steal. Your freedom to think, your ability to trust your gut, your right to know what is real. Let me tell you about Maya. Maya was in love, or she thought she was. Her partner, Evan, was charming, smart, gentle in all the ways that matter at first. But over time, small moments started to crack. Maya would mention a conversation they had, and Evan would say, "That never happened." She'd confront him about a text she saw on his phone, and he'd respond, "You're imagining things. You're so paranoid lately." One night she found evidence, clear, undeniable proof that he had lied. But instead of admitting it, he said, "Wow, I didn't realize you were this insecure." Maya cried herself to sleep. not because of what he did, but because she believed. She was losing her mind. That's what gaslighting does. It replaces your certainty with dependence. You stop trusting yourself and you start relying on them to define what's real, and that's when they own you. Stoicism is about clarity, about knowing what is in your control and what isn't. But when someone gaslights you, they infect that very boundary. They plant doubt in the one place Stoics say you must guard above all else: your judgment. Marcus Aurelius said, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." And a gaslighter's goal is to stain that color, to cloud your thoughts, to replace your vision with theirs. The most dangerous part? Gaslighters don't always do this out of malice. Sometimes they're just trying to avoid responsibility, or they can't accept their flaws, so they need you to carry the guilt they won't. And sometimes they just enjoy power, the power of watching someone question themselves, the thrill of bending reality and knowing you'll believe it. Stoicism tells us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But gaslighters don't want you strong. They want you submissive. They want your voice to get quieter, your confidence to shrink, your memory to feel like it's broken. So how do you fight it? First, you document truth. Journal what was said, what happened, how it made you feel. When someone says, "That's not what I said," you no longer have to rely on a crumbling memory because you've built your own record of reality. Second, you ask yourself, would I believe this story if it were happening to someone else? Because often it's easier to see manipulation from the outside. And third, you remember what Stoicism teaches. You are not the perception others create of you. You are what your reason, your virtue, and your values make you. And if someone constantly makes you feel confused, if their words always make you question what you know, if every conversation ends with you apologizing, you are not in a relationship, you are in a war, a psychological war against your own perception. Don't wait for them to get better. Don't hope that love will fix what manipulation built. Because as Seneca once said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. But when the imagination is poisoned by another's control, the suffering becomes endless. You deserve clarity. You deserve to own your reality. And anyone who tries to steal it from you, no matter how sweet their voice, is not someone the Stoic path allows into the mind or the soul. Red flag number 5. They twist the truth. Truth. The Stoics saw it as sacred, not something soft or sentimental, but sharp, brutal, non-negotiable. Seneca once wrote, "Truth is powerful and will ultimately prevail unless you're trapped in someone else's false narrative." And that is the danger. Because not every prison has bars. Some are built from lies, slowly shaped into your reality. Before we go further, if what we've discussed so far has struck a nerve, if something inside you is quietly saying, "This is familiar," I want you to pause and do something. Subscribe. Not just for more videos. This isn't about numbers. Subscribe to the part of you that wants clarity, that wants to see these red flags before they ruin your peace, your confidence, your identity. Hit the bell too, because some truths have to be heard more than once before they finally break through. Now let's talk about how people twist the truth and why it works so well. People who twist the truth don't lie in ways that are easy to detect. They don't make things up out of thin air. They reshape reality just enough to protect their image and place the blame somewhere else. They cherry pick, they omit, they reframe every event until your role is distorted and theirs is glorified. You confront them about what they did. Suddenly, you were too sensitive. The tone of your voice was aggressive. Your timing was wrong. They twist facts into feelings, and feelings into weapons. Stoicism teaches us to separate what's within our control from what isn't. But when you're trapped in someone else's false narrative, that line begins to fade. You don't know what's true anymore, not because you forgot, but because someone rewrote the memory before you had the chance to anchor it. Imagine this. You catch them in a contradiction. You say, "You told me last week that you were at home," and they reply, "I never said that." Or worse, "Why are you always so suspicious?" Notice the shift? The truth isn't addressed. The focus is redirected. You're now the issue. And just like that, the original point is gone. Stoics warned about this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "To love only what happens, what was destined, no greater harmony." But how can you love your reality when someone is distorting it every day? How can you trust your memories when the person closest to you edits them in real time? You start questioning the way things happened, and then you start questioning whether they happened at all. That's how abusers create doubt, not with one big lie, but with 1,000 little edits. There's a man named Yusuf, a bright guy, quiet, calm, a natural stoic in many ways, but his partner, Carla, had a habit. She never directly lied. Instead, when things went wrong, she'd adjust the story, say it happened differently, that Yusuf misunderstood, that he was too black and white. Over time, Yusuf started second-guessing his instincts. He'd replay conversations in his mind over and over, trying to find the fault in himself. But there was none. Carla wasn't debating the truth. She was twisting it. Here's the Stoic warning. Twisted truth is more dangerous than lies, because lies can be spotted. But half-truths, they slip past your logic, they infect your memory, and slowly they silence your voice. If someone always reinterprets your words, if they remember only the parts of the story that benefit them, if their version of events never includes their faults, you are not in a conversation, you're in a manipulation loop. One where they set the frame and you're just trying to survive within it. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And that's the answer. You don't have to convince a truth twister that you're right, because they're not interested in truth, they're interested in control. So instead of explaining, protect your reality. Write things down, speak plainly, stay calm, set boundaries, walk away from circular arguments, and most importantly, trust that now you are not crazy for noticing the distortion. The Stoic doesn't cling to certainty, they test it, they refine it, but they never surrender it to someone who twists facts for power, and neither should you. Red flag number 6, they isolate you subtly. Most people think abuse looks like shouting, bruises, threats, but some of the most dangerous manipulation doesn't raise its voice, it whispers. It says things like, "I just don't trust that friend of yours. Your family's not good for your peace. I just want you to be safe. With me." And it doesn't sound toxic. It sounds like love. That's how subtle isolation begins, not through violence, not through control, through concern, through jealousy dressed as care. It's strategic, calculated, and for the person being targeted, it feels like protection, until one day you look up and realize you're alone. Stoicism warns us, the mind thrives in community. Epictetus said, "Only the educated are free." But freedom is fragile, especially when the people you trust slowly cut off every voice but their own. Sam was a bright woman, independent. She had strong friendships, a close family, and a deep curiosity about philosophy. But when she met Leo, things began to shift, not overnight, gradually. It started with a few comments. "I don't think your friend Sophie really supports your goals. Your sister's always so negative around you." At first, Sam defended them, but she didn't want to cause conflict. So she started spending less time with them, and Leo rewarded that. He praised her for protecting her energy. He reminded her how peaceful things were when it was just them, until just them was all that was left. This is how subtle isolation works. They don't drag you away from people, they nudge you until you start thinking it's your own decision. They want you vulnerable not because they hate you, but because control is easier when no one else is watching. The Stoics were clear about this danger. Marcus Aurelius surrounded himself with advisors, generals, philosophers, because even the most powerful man in Rome knew isolation makes you blind, and blind people get manipulated. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." But when you're isolated, that's gone. There are no second opinions, no sounding boards, just one voice, repeating itself, until it becomes your inner voice too. Ask yourself, have you pulled away from the people who used to ground you? Are you avoiding conversations because you know they'll cause drama? Do you feel guilty spending time with others, even in harmless settings? That's not love. That's not protection. That's a cage being built from within. And here's the paradox. They often claim that others are toxic, that they're the only one who truly understands you. It's emotional monopoly. They isolate you just enough to become your only reference point, your only anchor. And that's when they start redefining your reality. Stoicism offers the antidote: connection. Not with everyone, but with the wise, the grounded, the people who challenge your thinking, not control it. Epictetus taught, seek people who bring out your best, not those who limit your circle under the illusion of safety. Because safety isn't isolation, it's clarity. It's having people who remind you of who you were before the manipulation began. If they discourage every outside influence, if every new connection feels like a threat to them, if their version of peace looks like your world getting smaller, then you are not being loved, you are being shrunk. Real love doesn't fear your freedom, it doesn't shrink your world, it expands it. So if someone is slowly cutting your ties, question their motives, because Stoicism doesn't thrive in silence, it thrives in communion with truth. And truth requires more than one voice. Red flag number 7, they have no purpose beyond power. Some people enter your life with vision, a desire to create, grow, contribute. Others come only to conquer, not openly, not with swords or commands, but with silence, with smiles, with slow erosion. This is the final red flag. They have no purpose beyond power. They don't build, they dominate, they drain, and when they're done, they move on to their next host. The Stoics saw it again and again in Rome, brilliant men destroyed by charming manipulators, leaders who trusted advisors, who mistook flattery for friendship, who invited evil into their circle, thinking it was wisdom. Nero listened to flatterers. Brutus pretended to love Caesar. Caligula was surrounded by yes-men, none of whom challenged him until it was too late. Marcus Aurelius said, "The wise man seeks harmony, the evil man seeks leverage." That's the difference. A wise person adds to your life. A toxic one extracts from it, slowly, strategically. Let me ask you something. Does this person you're thinking of build anything? Not buildings, not wealth, but people, community, stability, inner strength? Or do they leave behind chaos wherever they go? Failed friendships, scorched bridges, constant friction with everyone except those they control. If the pattern repeats again and again, you are not watching bad luck. You're watching someone fulfill their only purpose: power, control, domination. These people don't lead with vision. They lead with pressure. They're not driven by meaning. They're driven by insecurity, masked as dominance. Their version of love, conditional. Their version of respect, demanded, not earned, and their version of peace only exists when they're in control of everyone else's energy. Epictetus warned of people who had no logos, no inner reason, no guiding principle. He said, "You become what you give your attention to." So what are they becoming? What do they obsess over? Control, influence, the ability to change how you see yourself? Because if someone's only joy comes from rearranging other people's emotions, that is not ambition. That is spiritual decay. The Stoic builds, the manipulator conquers. One creates inner peace, the other invades it. You'll recognize them by the void behind their smile, the way their compliments feel. Strategic, the way they never apologize unless it regains control, the way they always know what to say, but somehow never say what matters. And here's what hurts the most. They don't need you. They need what they can extract from you, your energy, your status, your silence, your guilt. And when they've used it all up, they'll leave. And you'll wonder what you did wrong. But you didn't fail. You just met someone who doesn't know how to exist without control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Be careful. These people will paint your soul, but not with wisdom, not with love, with fear, confusion, self-doubt, and they'll call it connection. So look closely. If someone builds nothing, leaves only ashes, turns every moment into a game of leverage, then you've seen it. The seventh red flag, the final proof. They don't seek growth, they seek power, and that is the root of evil. So now you've seen the signs, the red flags, not the ones you read about in self-help books, but the ones the Stoics warned us about. Centuries ago, not loud, not obvious, subtle, psychological, and deadly. What do you do with this knowledge? Do you call them out, argue, burn bridges? No, that's not Stoicism, that's ego, that's noise. Epictetus didn't teach us to explode, he taught us to observe, to see reality without the distortion of emotion, and respond, not react. Don't fight evil with hatred, he would say. Fight it with boundaries. The goal isn't revenge, it's clarity. The goal isn't confrontation, it's detachment. You don't need to expose them, you need to protect yourself. So draw the line, silently, not in anger but in awareness. Say less, move differently, watch everything. And when the moment comes, walk away, not with bitterness, but with calm, because that's what true power looks like. Grace in the face of evil. In a world this loud, Stoicism is your shield, but that shield doesn't protect you unless you know where the blows are coming from. You can meditate all day, repeat quotes from Marcus Aurelius, but if you keep letting the wrong people into your space, you're just dressing a wound that never stops bleeding. The Stoics understood something we've forgotten. Your peace is sacred. It's not supposed to be shared with everyone. Seneca warned, "He who touches pitch shall be defiled." So be careful who gets access to you. Be careful who speaks into your mind, because not everyone wants to understand you. Some just want to break you quietly. Ask yourself, who around you drains you, not with conflict, but with constant confusion? Who interrupts your peace with subtle guilt, not open war? Who mimics love, mirrors your traits, says all the right things, but leaves you feeling smaller every time you're with them? These aren't random flaws, these are patterns. Patterns of power. And every Stoic, from Aurelius to Epictetus, knew that kind of energy is a threat. So don't hate them, just recognize them. And when you do, don't justify it. Don't explain it away. Just step back. Watch your circle. Not everyone deserves access to your peace. The people around you are not neutral. They're either watering your growth or poisoning it slowly. This is your life, your mind, your internal empire. Don't let chaos dress itself in charm and take the throne. Use what the Stoics gave us: awareness, self-control, boundaries. And when you sense danger, don't react, don't rage, just walk away with clarity, with strength, and with peace that no one can touch. If this video opened your eyes, if even one red flag hit too close to home, then hit that like button. Let the algorithm know that clarity still matters. And if you've ever dealt with someone like this, someone who drained your energy, rewrote your truth, controlled through silence, then comment below. I see it now. Because naming it is the first act of freedom. And if you're done letting chaos rule your mind, if you're building that inner shield of discipline, peace, and power, then subscribe. This is where we train. This is where we get stronger, quietly, intentionally, stoically.